Hello, my love. I am so glad you're here. Thank you for choosing to share this time with me. The thing is, the next few minutes of the time we're going to share together could and will drastically change the way you think about your life experience and the control that you believe or don't believe that you have. And the misconceptions and corresponding truths that I'm going to share with you can radically change your life in the most positive and in-depth ways possible. And one of the things I shared with you before is that I'm going to show you how to do less and get better results. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Because if you're here, we already know that you're pressed for time, that you're constantly struggling with implementing boundaries and saying no to people, that you struggle with feelings of guilt and shame, that you're overwhelmed, exhausted, stressed out, and overworked. You don't need more to do. So let's start there. The first thing that I want you to do is I do want you to grab a notebook or a tablet or a pen and paper, anything, because there are going to be some moments throughout the course of this training that I'm going to ask you to do a little reflection. And it would serve us both well if you'd write those answers down, because it's incredibly important to reflect on how these misconceptions and their corresponding truths would impact your life. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you need. And this, frankly, is one of the exact strategies that I use to help my elite clients navigate and learn how to build their own custom strategy for anything and everything they want to do in their lives, and allows them to begin living life on purpose. Now, I want to think about that for a moment, because when we're living life on purpose, nobody is going to choose to live life stressed out, anxious, fearful, overworked, overwhelmed, exhausted, and disconnected from the people that they love the most, or not being the best parent that they can be, or not being the immense giver that they actually are. If you're anything like me, you want to be resourced so you can actually give more. You can do more for the people that you love. The problem is, if you're sacrificing yourself in the process, there isn't much of you left. And that's what we're going to change, because I want you to be the most resourced person that you can possibly be, so that you can go into the world and pour love and mental clarity and your best ideas and your best strategies and the best solutions to problems that you possibly can. And all of this is going to show you just how you do that and what the best next step is to develop your own custom strategy. So let's make sure you get a pen and paper. I'll wait. I'm going to hit pause on this video and I will be right back with the first incredible misconception that people have and what the truth actually is. I'll see you then. Okay, are we ready? Do you have your pen and paper? Great, let's get started. One of the first and most common misconceptions that my clients have when they begin work with me is that this exhaustion and overwhelm can only be cured by forcing their way through, by muddling their way through the next step, by more motivation and more discipline. Maybe they've also included productivity and time management hacks, none of which are actually going to solve the overwhelm and exhaustion problem. But many people think they do, because we've got these productivity experts everywhere saying that they'll give you an hour of your time back every day. Cool. But then what are you going to do with that hour? You're going to fill it up with more stuff to do. You don't need more to do. The reality is that you don't need more force and more discipline and more productivity hacks. It's not going to solve your problem of constant exhaustion and overwhelm. Before I get to the truth behind this and what you actually need, the actual solution that you're looking for, I want to talk about the way that exhaustion and overwhelm actually affects our lives. Because often, again, we only think about it from this place where it's a productivity issue. It's keeping us from doing more. It's keeping us from achieving more. But what it actually does is attack our physical health. Gives us heart issues and migraines and gut health issues. It gives us issues with our libidos. It keeps us from wanting and enjoying time to spend with our kids. It keeps us from being present with our partners, from being the person that our person fell in love with. Or keeps us from being the person that the kind of person we want to be with would fall in love with. It makes us too stressed and overwhelmed and disconnected to think about sex, or causes us to use sex as an avoidance behavior, as a fill-in for the deep emotional connection we wish we were experiencing in our relationships or our potential relationships. It keeps us from achieving our health goals. It keeps us from achieving our financial goals because we're constantly grabbing at straws, buying Band-Aids, trying to buy happiness, trying to buy the next best thing that we think will make us happy, only to find out that it didn't. This exhaustion and overwhelm also doesn't prepare you for or create a sense of confidence for difficult times. You're not properly resourced for difficult times if you're constantly exhausted and overwhelmed. You can't be. Because that's one more thing. And God forbid it's a giant thing, right? Because if it's a big thing, then the house of cards just could fall down in a minute. So what's the truth? What is it that you need if it's not more force, more discipline, productivity hacks, or better time management? It's control. And I'm willing to bet that if you're experiencing all the things we've talked about, that everything feels very out of control. And when we feel out of control, we feel powerless. And when we feel powerless, hopelessness is right behind. And this is actually the reason that the most high achieving people that look like they have it all and they have it all together are more likely to take their own lives than any other group. And I want you to think about that for a minute. The highest achieving people, these overachievers, the ones that look like they have it all and have it all together, if anybody's ever said that to you, are the most likely to take their own lives than any other group. And this is why. When we're constantly engaging in avoidance behaviors, because we have no idea how to solve any one of the growing list of problems in our personal lives or within ourselves, or emotions we're experiencing that we don't know what to do with, we feel out of control. And feeling out of control brings hopelessness, and hopelessness brings powerlessness. And then all of a sudden, it feels like everything's in shambles. So what do? Well, one of the things I walk my clients through in the first 2 weeks of the time they spend working with me is a radical shift that takes the focus off of all of the things around them that they actually don't have control over, and teaches them how to reclaim their power so that they know exactly what they have control over and how to build on that. That is the very thing that allowed my client, we'll call her Megan, to say this to me literally within the first 2 weeks of her time with me. We had a call, we were sharing time together, we were talking about the wins we've experienced over the last few weeks, because that's really important. Overachievers are terrible at acknowledging the things that they've accomplished or the good things that are going on because they're so focused on the things that are going poorly or the things that are not done. So this is a massive focus shift that we participate in. Anyway, we were sharing this time together, and she said to me, Beth, yesterday I was sitting on a deck at sunset with a really good friend, and we were laughing and carrying on. And I had a cold glass of white wine in my hand. And I just was overcome with this awe that this was my life. A life that a year ago, I didn't even want to be living anymore. Can you imagine how powerful a shift like that would be for you in 2 weeks? Can you imagine how reclaiming that, the ability to see the good, the ability to take time for yourself would change everything? This is the first intermission of this training. I'm going to pause this video. I want you to spend some time writing down or thinking through how reclaiming control would shift everything in your life, how it would affect your relationships, your finances, your work, your leisure time, whether you have leisure time and then you don't at all and then you would. What if you felt in control and in the driver's seat of your life experience? What would it feel like for you to have your power back? Take a minute, spend some time reflecting on all that, and I will be back with the next truth and misconception. All right. I know that exercise was immensely powerful for you, and I cannot wait to hear what came up for you in that space. But let's talk about the second misconception and its corresponding truth. If you are crippling under the pressure and the demand of the world around you, and you feel this constant pressure to always have the solutions and to always have the answers and to always show up for people, then I can all but guarantee that you have a self-worth problem. What does that even mean? What does that do? The reality is that many of us, overachievers, came from a place where a premium was placed on our ability to achieve. We tied our worth to whether or not we were achieving and doing. So when we're not achieving or doing, we feel worthless. When we have this self-worth problem, we're constantly saying yes when we want to scream no. We're terrible at implementing boundaries. There's zero work-life balance because we're crippling under the pressure. So we keep trying to do more. We keep trying to meet the needs of everyone around us to prove that we're valuable and worthy. You don't need to do all that. The reality is, when we solve for this worth problem, it solves all these surface level symptoms. All of a sudden, this pressure we feel and these demands that are being imposed upon us just kind of fall away. Why? How could that possibly be? Because we no longer fear rejection. When we stop overextending and exhausting ourselves trying to prove our worth and value to everybody that's not us, magically things fall off our plates. When we realize what we actually need to do to get where we need to go, and we stop doing all the other things that won't get us there, things magically clear off our plates. In a minute, we're doing less. And we're accomplishing better results because we have more energy, more resources, and more mental clarity to dedicate to the things we've identified actually matter to us, instead of filling our lives with all this other stuff. What's fascinating to me is the vast majority of clients that I work with, well, all of them, they're some of the most high-achieving, brilliant people I know. We all know high-achieving, brilliant people. What's fascinating about these particular high-achieving, brilliant people is that they don't buy it. They don't see those things in themselves. They don't see what incredible leaders they are, how smart they are, their ability to think on their feet and solve problems. And these are the things that the rest of the world sees in them, which is what keeps pushing them into leadership positions and why people are constantly asking them for advice and they can't figure out why. Because they don't see their own gifts. They don't see their own intelligence. One of the things that's really interesting is that by far what they do see and what they have learned from all the books they've read and the therapy sessions that failed and all of these other things that didn't get them where they ultimately wanted to go, is that they figured out that the key to the kingdom, the key that unlocks all the doors, is this self-worth and this self-love and this confidence and self-assuredness that allows them to say, I'm good with me. So it doesn't matter whether you are or not. It doesn't matter if you get upset with me for not dropping everything to come help you or for honoring my own boundaries, because I know that this is what's best for me and this is what helps me stay in alignment with my priorities and allows me to do the things I'm doing and serve the people I'm serving at a higher level. So they figured out that this self-love and this self-confidence is the ticket. But they haven't figured out how to actually solve the problem. Because they're still trying to solve for the symptom. They're solving for the external forces, right? We're beating our asses at the gym, trying to lose weight and feel better about our bodies. Cosmetic enhancements, high-end labels, restrictive diets, chasing after the next shiny thing, going on vacation, trying to buy themselves some rest and relaxation, only to be bombarded overtime when they get back and need a vacation from having had the vacation, right? We've been there, I've been there. So how do we actually solve this problem? The truth is that all of these things, all of the things that you do to your physical body to try to improve your appearance are not going to solve your self-worth and confidence problem. It doesn't matter how many thousands of dollars you spend on it. It doesn't matter how many tens of thousands of dollars you spend on putting together the perfect house so you look picture perfect to everybody from the outside. It's only going to increase this feeling that you already have of feeling like a fraud. It's going to amplify this idea that other people have, that you have it all and you have it all together. Because all they see from the outside is this picture perfect. They can't see what's going on inside you. And this disconnect that you're experiencing in your own life won't be solved until you start dealing with what's going on inside you. Because if you don't acknowledge your own worth, It doesn't matter what you do to your external appearance. It's never going to be good enough. Ask me how I know. I spent a decade of my life on restrictive diets and beating myself at the gym and every fad workout and HIIT workouts, and I was killing myself, and I wasn't any happier in my own skin until I did the inside work. The thing about self-love and confidence that people don't understand is that they're trying to learn to love this person that the world has shaped for them through the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and the can'ts and the mustn'ts. And 9 times out of 10, the clients that I work with in my program come to me saying, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just really not even sure who I am anymore. And that's from constantly doing this chameleon, this people-pleasing routine of just hiding one little part of ourselves away to placate the people around us, to fit in, to feel accepted. The vast majority of my clients have felt misunderstood their whole lives. So they've been in this practice of like shape-shifting, of constantly sort of going with the flow just to earn approval and acceptance into this group of friends that they may or may not even actually resonate with. It's what drives people to work their tails off to buy a fancy car that fits in at the country club that they don't even like going to because it's full of all these surface level conversations, and they're deeper thinkers than that. They want real, authentic connection. So what's the problem? What's the disconnect? The disconnect is that they're trying to learn to love this person that they're not actually. You can't love anybody you don't know in depth. So the first step to solving this part of the problem, this self-worth and confidence problem, is to figure out who they actually are. Once they figure out who they actually are and begin to lean into that and discover their own gifts and realize their own gifts and be willing to acknowledge them, their confidence grows like this. It's so fast and it's incredible to watch. It's one of my very favorite things. How do we accomplish this? How do I accomplish this with my clients? I accomplish it through teaching them how to reflect on their own story, their own life journey, and own it. When we own our own story and we can reflect on the whole thing without looking for blame or shame or guilt for other people or ourselves, we can simply acknowledge it. Everything changes. Nobody can use your story against you anymore. You don't have to hide your weaknesses. You don't constantly have to be exhausting yourself, avoiding your emotions about the things that happened to you, or censoring yourself about what's happened to you, or censoring your own emotions because you think you should feel differently than you do. This is about acknowledging it for exactly what it is. And there is no shame here. There's no guilt here. You do not get to shame yourself for decisions that you made in your past with information you have now that you didn't then. That's not how it works. And I will fight you tooth and nail about it. So this brings us to another reflection time. I want you to take a minute, grab your writing pad, your writing utensil again, and spend a moment reflecting on what your life would feel like, how it would be different if you had this confidence and self-assuredness that no one could ever take away from you, and that you were able to give yourself permission to be exactly who you are. I'll be back. All right. The third and final truth and misconception, and then we'll talk about what to do next. Grabbing at straws. wishing for happiness, buying shiny things, hoping that that's the answer. Vacations, divorces, tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars spent hoping that that's the answer. Job hopping, partner hopping, town hopping, hoping that the next job or the next person or the next place that you live is the answer to what you're looking for. It's a scramble. It's this constant scramble. And then along comes the frustration and the despair when you work your ass off to afford that thing or make that move and get all the logistics together or find that new job and win the interview and all of these things, only to find that the thing you thought that was going to make you happy doesn't make you happy at all. The fake smile that you put on your face when people go, "Wow, you really have it all, don't you?" The loneliness inside after that moment when you feel like nobody will ever understand. That ends here. I don't care how many shiny things you have. I don't care what fancy car you drive or what kind of palace you live in or if any of those things exist in your world. All I care about is why there's a disconnect between the things you've accomplished and the despair in your heart. That's it. That's why I'm here. It's my purpose on the planet to help people navigate that chasm, to figure out why the things that they thought would make them happy aren't making them happy, and to eliminate the guilt and the shame for not being happier and more grateful for the things that they do have. Because those things don't, yes, gratitude matters. Absolutely. It is a life-changing practice. But not when it's toxic. And it's toxic when we're trying to convince ourselves to be grateful for something we're not actually grateful for because it's not making us that happy. So what's the answer? How do we go from spending tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, years and decades of our lives, hoping that the next step is the right one? How do we eliminate this cycle of frustration and guilt and sadness and disconnect and numbness and isolation? The answer that my clients get through this method that I've distilled is clarity. Clarity is the secret sauce. Because once we figure out once we regain control so we can do this work to begin with, and we figure out who we actually are underneath all of these social constructs and the generational patterns and the trauma that was passed down to us from our parents and their parents before them and their parents before them, and we begin to build trust and confidence in who we are, and we're no longer seeking everyone else's approval, that's when the fun starts. That's when we can pour this clarity sauce on top and figure out what it actually is that we want. And then we can design for it. And that is life-changing. That's how this method works. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. These are custom tailored strategies that I teach my clients how to build for themselves because I don't want anybody to need me forever. One of the things that's imperative for you to understand is that you've probably at this point been living in a space where you felt like nobody was ever going to understand you for a very long time, potentially your whole life. You may have always been a black sheep, an outlier, felt just a little on the edge of where everybody else is. And if that's true, then we need you. If that's true, then there is a tribe of people that are waiting for you to join them because they get it. Every single one of the clients that I have worked with understand all of the emotions and all of the disconnect and all of the numbness and isolation that we've talked about throughout the course of this training. They understand all of these symptoms and they're unlocking the doors to get out of it. What I have built is a container. It's a how-to, but it's done with you because you need support. You need understanding. You need connection. You need to make sure that your ego, which is operating from the past, your subconscious, which is programmed to operate to respond to what's happened in your past, is not sabotaging your future. I often laugh because I call myself a subconscious retrainer and nobody really understands what that means, but that's what this means. This method allows us to go into your subconscious, which is controlling 90% of the way you think, feel, and behave every single day based on what's happened before in your life, not what's happening now, and bring it into your conscious mind so that you can process it. And also teaches you how to process it. So these are all the things that I walk my clients through in 9 weeks. If you remember at the beginning of this video, I talked about how this has taken me decades. Building this method and these processes took me a decade of trial and error and a lot of money spent on all of the things that I was talking about before. All of the avoidance behaviors, the gym memberships, the programs, the time and the energy and the exhaustion that I spent disciplining myself. And none of those things were the answer. And since you're an overachiever, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't, the other thing that I want to talk about before I leave you today is this fierce independence, is this inability to trust. Because I get it. I spent a whole lot of time in my life sabotaging myself right out of the very resources that would have helped me get here a hell of a lot faster. Because I was terrified to accept help, because I was terrified I would be let down. And it was easier to keep up all the defense mechanisms in the walls. I thought it was easier. To keep up all the defense mechanisms in the walls and protect myself so fiercely I couldn't receive the very thing that I was desperate to have, which was love and support and understanding. And that's why my methods are built the way they are, because I've lived that and I've done it. And I will caution you against it because, again, it is our subconscious mind that controls 90% of the way we think, feel, and behave every single day. And if you don't have outside perspective that understands how those thought patterns trick you into staying in the same cycle over and over and over again, then you're going to stay there. And I don't want you to stay there. I am a recovering overachiever, believe you me. And I want to tell you that this is the piece of the overachiever that's left in me. I don't want you to get halfway there. I don't want you to waste your time and money on fluff and bullshit and productivity tips and time management hacks and all this other nonsense that's not going to get you where you want to go. Because if you're anything like me, what I wanted was freedom to be who I was. I wanted to feel good about being who I was. I wanted the resources to be able to be who I am. I wanted to be able to pour into people the same way I did before, but more generously. I didn't want to be exhausted anymore. I wanted to be rested and peaceful and happy and joyful. And like I said, over a decade of trial and error and a whole lot of failure and working through all of these things again with my clients, I've gotten to a place where I'm continuing to build on that. And I'm going to tell you the very moment when all of it changed for me. The very moment all of it changed for me was when I stopped sacrificing myself, hoping that somebody one day would pour into me the way I was pouring into everybody else, and started betting on me and started investing in me. And so over the course of the years, I paid a lot of money for a lot of programs to learn from a lot of very high-level mentors. And I'm grateful to be able to have distilled this and created this method to share it with people so that they can get from where they are right now in this overwhelm and exhaustion and stuckness to this peace and this freedom and contentment and confidence in who they actually are and control over their life experience and the ability to design a life they love living every day in the fastest, safest, and easiest way possible. That's why this program was built the way it was built, with a couple of success parameters in mind. The first being, it couldn't be epically long. You don't need more to put on your plate before we can begin to take things off. So it's 9 weeks. I removed all of the fluff and all of the unnecessary things. If you're a meat and potatoes person like me, then this is for you. Two, that it had to create connection among people who were like-minded and like-hearted. So this is a space for givers and doers and wide open hearts. And 3 is that it takes people where they want to go. And the way that we're able to create these completely custom strategies and ensure that you're going to get where you want to go is, 1, through the connection calls. I'll share the link with you where we can talk more about exactly what it is you're looking for and make absolutely certain that we can do that. But it's also a how-to, right? It's teaching you how to develop deeper strategies for you with exactly the answers that you need because they're yours. So there's tons of artistic freedom. There's no one here saying, you should have done it this way, you should have done it that way. That's not how this program works, and it won't ever work that way. The other thing is that I personally am always in constant evolution. So there's always new things being added. There's always new benefits. For example, there are retreats coming soon, which is really fun. So we can all get together in person, which I'm immensely excited about. But the next step is that I want to hear your answers. I want to hear what came up for you when you were thinking about how these shifts would change your life. I want to hear what came up for you. I want to hear what resistance came up for you. I want to hear what ahas you had, what spoke to you the deepest. And I want to figure out what the next best step for you is. So there's a link below or next to or somewhere around this video where you can click through to my call calendar and just schedule whatever makes sense for you. If there's a spot open, then it works for me. If there's not a spot open that works the best for you, please shoot me a message. Please message me through the website, email me, beth@bethjoneswellness.com. I would be more than happy to create space for you so we can get you out of this stuckness. I am full done with the kind of world where the highest achieving people that we need, love leaders like you, doers and givers and open hearts who want to continue to pour with this immense generosity that they have, but are too exhausted and too overwhelmed to do it, can resource themselves to continue to share their light with the world. And I can't wait to talk with you. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope, if nothing else, it was immensely valuable just to share this space. And I look forward to talking with you soon. I love you. You are brilliant and worthy and deserving and capable, even on the days when it feels like you're not. We'll talk soon.